Session 3, grant writing mishaps and how to correct them. But before we do that, we had a question at the end of the last session. I am sorry, I got cut off right as I was going to answer this question. And I'm glad to see that you guys are all on now. The question was, do I know how long the process takes? I can answer the question for our process. I cannot answer for anybody else's process. So for our process, we have an ongoing grant application that is considered every other month. So at the end of July, the grants committee considered the grants, and then it goes to the grants committee in at the second week of August. It's based on our board meetings. The cutoff for that board meeting is about a 3 to 4 week time period, so that the grants committee can consider and make recommendations to the board. So depending on where in that process you apply will determine how long that process takes. So for us, the longest it should take from you applying to you having an answer is 3 months. Our philosophy is that you ask for funding when you want funding. And so we try really hard to make sure that we have all of our questions answered before it goes to the grants committee. And we'll talk about that a little bit today during this session on the grant writing mishaps. So just to remind you, if you have a question, please write it in the chat box. If we have time at the end, I plan to open it up and you can ask questions from any of the sessions today, and you can ask them live at the end. Otherwise, if you have a question as we're going through, please feel free to type it in the chat box and Jesse will let me know. You should have your handouts for session 3. So if you don't, please let Jesse know. Also, if you did not specifically register in our system for this grant writing session, meaning you had to reach out to me at my email address to get the information, please type your email in the chat box so Jesse can get it copied down so we can make sure to get you the follow-up documents that I have prepared for you. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started with mishap number 1. Mishap number 1, not taking the time to understand the grant qualifications and or taking the time to get to know the funder. There are a variety of ways to research your funder and the grant qualifications. You can use social media, their website, or you can connect directly with their program officer, and that's the role that I play. And people have sometimes, I think, a little bit of a misguided view regarding my time and what I do and what my role is. It is my absolute pleasure to answer questions before you submit your application. It is much easier for me to offer guidance before you submit than it is to try and get answers from you for confusing things after you have submitted. So if you have a question and you are submitting an application to my process, then I would really love to hear from you before you submit. I would love to have a conversation about what your ideas and your project is so that I can offer guidance on what the grants committee wants to see regarding data or regarding how to submit your budget or regarding your sustainability question. That's what I do. That's my role. That's how I serve you as the one applying for a grant. I serve the grants committee by making sure all of their questions are answered before we go to the committee meeting. So usually I can anticipate what I think they might ask based on my understanding of the application. So I try to get those questions answered before the meeting so that when they meet, they can make a determination that same day, and then it can go to the board for a final determination so that you have your answer as quickly as possible. So regarding researching grant qualifications, over the last few years, I have seen a couple of grant applications to cover travel expenses for a variety of things. On our website, we say specifically travel expenses are not a covered expense. If that is what your grant proposal is for, then it will be thrown out and it will not be considered. If that person had taken the time to connect with me, if they saw my website or not, if they had taken the time to connect with me, I would have been able to save them the time of even submitting that application because it wasn't a qualified expense. Now, based on that, I can also say that there are other funders. So maybe submitting in our competitive process isn't the right way to ask for funding. And instead, if I know of somebody who's interested maybe in what you're doing, I might say, how about you just send me a short email, a few paragraphs to describe what your travel expenses will be for. I think I know a donor who might be interested in funding this. Again, that saves you time, that saves me time from trying to backtrack something that shouldn't have been done in the first place. So research your funder, research the qualifications, get to know them. There are lots of ways to do that. So make sure you're taking the time to do that. Mishap number 2. Not listening to the advice given by the program officer. I have had many conversations over the years regarding what a qualified expense is, how we want to see the budget, if the program will even really be considered or not. All of these things, I can offer guidance to the person submitting the application. It's disappointing to me when somebody does spend a lot of time on submitting an application and it's not even really going to be considered because it didn't qualify. I think that's really sad and it's not necessary. So if you've been able to have some time with me and I do share some advice, please make sure you're following that advice because I'm not sharing it for my own benefit. I'm sharing it to save you time and effort and energy and be able to be honest with you regarding the potential of being funded. Mishap number 3. Not being specific about your needs. If you reach out to a funder, please be specific about what you require. It is really not helpful when you are vague, either in what you're going to be doing with the funds or the amount of funding that you need. If you have several programs and each program is going to say cost, for example, $5,000, letting us know that is going to help us help you. If we don't have a dollar amount that we're even looking at, I cannot take it to the grants committee. If I don't have a dollar amount specifically, I can't tell a donor, well, they need this much funding. Just saying that you'll be happy with whatever you get is not a helpful way to express your needs Because what if we have $5,000 to give, but you really only need $1,000 to run your project? Not telling us what you need is not helpful. You must be specific. Mishap number 4. Not completing the required documents in a timely fashion. I highly, highly, highly recommend you put deadlines on your calendar and you follow them. Not completing the required documentation can put your organization at risk for not getting funding in the future. And so that is not something you want to, a position you want to put yourself in. It also leaves a bad taste in a program officer's mouth if they have to keep contacting you to make sure those follow-ups are done. So if you are applying for a grant, you make an agreement that you will follow and submit those documents on time. And so make sure you are doing that. That is your responsibility, not the program officer's responsibility. Additionally, I will say that, for us, our final report allows you to tell the story of what the funds did. So this isn't where you put the data. This is where you put the testimonials or the pictures or your observations. And you tell a story about why this is such a good thing and why it's benefiting the people that you are trying to serve. This helps us talk to donors to keep funding you, or it helps us talk with the grants committee and let them know, their part in allowing this kind of program to happen. It allows us to share with the community all the great things that our community is doing. It's so much more than just a document to dreadfully fill out at the end of your required time. This is our way of being able to share all of that good that is happening, and we love sharing it. So please help us share that information with our donors and with the community at large. Also, I will say that this helps us understand future funding needs, because sometimes one of the questions on our final report is, did you spend all of the funding that you got? If you didn't, there's another report that you should complete for us that allows us to, it allows you to tell us the way that you plan to spend the extra funds, and allow us to go through the process of affirming that. And other requirements from other funders might be they want to see receipts. They like to be specific about verifying that you have spent the funds in an appropriate way. All of these things help you get future funding if you're doing it and following the guidelines that have been set out in your grant agreement. And the final mishap for us to talk about today is not the mishap is submitting the proposal 1 minute before the deadline. And this is not a good idea for a lot of reasons. It is really helpful to me as the program officer to have an idea of the grant that's going to be submitted. If you're not going to submit until 1 minute before the deadline, please reach out to me prior to that and share your idea. As I said earlier, it is my absolute pleasure to talk through your idea and talk about ways that you can strengthen your application so that it is considered and funded in a way that is helpful and meaningful to your project. If you wait until the very last minute to submit it, the process is that it's submitted the very next day I get it to the grants committee. So they might consider it, but if they have a lot of questions, it might be thrown out, or it might be that you have to wait until the next round before they're because they have too many questions that they need to have answered before they're willing to make a determination. So waiting until the last minute is not helpful, especially if you don't have a relationship with that funder and you haven't talked with them about that grant application. So I will, that is all I have for right now. So I wonder if there are any questions. I'm going to open it up for about 10 minutes to answer any questions you have generically or about our process here at the Community Foundation for grant writing. And you can unmute yourself or you can type it in the chat box, either way. Okay, well, we can come back to questions. You guys be thinking if you have any, we'll come back to that. So later today, I'm going to be sending out an email with an evaluation. The email will include an evaluation, all the resource links that I shared with you today. It should have, I'm hoping to be able to share all 3 recordings with you today yet. I'll need to double check that. If not, you'll get those recordings early next week. It's really helpful to me if you complete the evaluation and get that to me by the end of the week. It helps me evaluate myself and be able to answer questions for other people. If I, for when I do this again, if there's something specific I did not address that you felt needed to be addressed, please let me know that. Or if you have any other feedback for me, I would be very grateful to know how I can make this better for the next time I do it. Okay, no questions at this point yet. My name is Celeste Carlson. Like I said, I'm the Director of Community Services here at the McPherson County Community Foundation. If you have questions in the future, teachers from across the state of Kansas, if you have questions about the resources I'm going to share or any of the data resources, you can email me. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have by email. I am taking vacation time tomorrow through the end of the week. So if I don't get back with you, if I don't get back with you this week, that's why I'm going to be on vacation. Sorry about that. Just a minute. We're working on it. Further, if you have any questions, you can reach me at the office. Or Sarah, I think if you don't mind, if you could mute yourself. Okay, I think we got it. Thank you. All right. So if you have any questions, you can reach out by email. You can call me at the office, but I won't be returning calls until next week. If you have other questions regarding grant applications, our general guidelines, you can look at our website. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, it doesn't look like anybody has any questions, so I guess you guys have an extra half hour to your day today. Thank you so much for participating, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day. And for the teachers that are participating in the symposium, enjoy.